Welcome, everybody, to the Teacher's Side Income Business. This is your host, Rodney Davis. And, after spending 25 years in education on the island of St. Martin, I am now a retired school social worker. I now spend my time helping career educators understand that what they've been building over a lifetime in this profession has real, tangible, monetizable value outside of the classroom. Good. So, welcome to everyone on Facebook. It's the same conversation on both Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn as well. Every Thursday at 6. And by way of explanation, this is eventually going to morph into a Q&A as the numbers grow. For now, I'm just doing presentations, but I'm hoping to move away from that as soon as possible. I'm just waiting for more and more questions to come from the audience. Good. So let's go. Let's begin. Tonight, I want to talk about something that I think causes more unnecessary suffering in the teacher entrepreneurship space than almost anything else. And I want to be honest, it used to bother me when I first saw it, but now mostly it just makes me a little impatient because the solution is so much simpler than the problem has been made to seem. The topic tonight is your niche is closer than you think. And I put it that way because when we breach a topic of an online course business for teachers, they begin thinking that there's some obscure thing that they have to learn in order to be able to offer some value to the public. And that is just not the case. And so a large part of what I understand I have to do is to get teachers to see what their intrinsic value is after spending all those years in the classroom. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and explain to you exactly why you've been trained to just think about and talk about your profession as a task description instead of a valuable product that you can offer to the public. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And I mean this almost literally. You know, the online business world has a particular piece of value or a piece of advice that it loves to give people who are thinking about building something. You've probably heard it already. It goes something it goes something like this. So you find your passion, discover your purpose, get clear on your why, do the inner work, journal, reflect, explore. I want to be fair, for certain people that advice makes sense. If you're 24 years old, you've just graduated with a degree in communications, and you've spent your professional life doing a series of unrelated jobs for 2 years, yes, you probably do need to spend some time figuring out what you actually know well enough to teach. But that advice was written for that person. It wasn't written for you, the veteran teacher. You're a veteran educator with 10, 15, maybe 20 years or more years, one professional lane. You did not wander. You went deep. You spent your entire career in sustained, structured, supervised practice of a specific set of skills, and you've been getting paid to deliver measurable outcomes with those skills for over a decade. You do not need to find your passion, you're already standing in it. So, why does the niche question feel so hard? And I think there are two reasons for this. The first is that the online business industry doesn't know that educators exist as a category. Okay, the frameworks and the advice and the language that was built is for a generalist, people who need to start from zero. When you try to apply those frameworks to your situation as a veteran teacher, they don't fit, and the friction makes you feel like the problem is with you when it really isn't. The problem is with the framework itself. Okay. The second reason is more interesting, and it's internal. You've been trained by the profession itself to think of what you know as a job description rather than as a product. This is what I was alluding to before. When someone asks you what you do, you say, I teach high school English, or I'm a high school social worker, or I work in special education, right? You describe your role in an institution. You don't describe what you actually know how to do. Because in the context of K-12, those are the same thing. Outside of K-12, however, they're not the same thing at all. When you say, I teach high school English, that's a job description. But when you say, I help adults write with clarity and confidence, that's a product. Same underlying expertise, completely different frame. Okay? So the overwhelming message here is that your niche is not your subject. And when I say that the first time to a lot of teachers, it brings in even more alarm, because it's like, if the niche is not my subject, so what is it that I'm going to offer? And I just want people to calm down when I first say to you, it's not your subject. Sure. But let me say that again, because I think it's the most important thing I'm going to say tonight. Your niche is not your subject. The niche is a transformation you reliably produce in people. Here's what I mean. I've seen teachers build profitable online businesses from classroom management strategies. Not teaching other teachers, mind you, but teaching parents who were struggling with behavior at home and needed exactly the kind of structured, passionate, practical approach that a veteran educator brings to that problem. Okay? I've seen writing instructors build programs for working professionals who needed to communicate more clearly. And they charge premium prices because 15 years of teaching people to write is a very rare and very credible background in that market. I've seen math teachers build programs specifically for adults with math anxiety, people who were blocked professionally, academically, or personally by a fear of numbers that a good teacher could dismantle in a way that a tutor or a YouTube video never could. Okay? None of these niches that I just mentioned are sexy in the online business sense. None of them went viral, but every single one of them was built on genuine, deep expertise that took years to develop and that produced real, verifiable results with real people. And that's exactly the kind of thing that adult learners with disposable income will pay you for. So, the market doesn't pay for breadth, the market pays for specificity. And 15 years in one professional lane is about as specific as it gets. All right? Let me pause here and look for comments. I still don't see any. I do have a question that was posed in the comment section for the last week's replay. And I'm going to start with that in just a bit. Okay. I do want to name something before we go to that question, because I've been talking about niche in terms of expertise, and I want to give you a complete picture. The niche that works, the one that's both fulfilling and financially viable, lives at the intersection of three things: what you know deeply, who needs it badly, and what they will invest to get it. In other words, what they'll pay. All three have to be true. Deep expertise in a direction no one needs is a passion project. A hungry audience for something that you don't actually know is a recipe for overcommitment and under delivery. And finally, a perfectly matched expertise to audience combination that no one will pay for is a valuable service that doesn't become a business. So, in essence, I'm saying you need all three for your business to work. Okay? And so, this is where you have to be very careful, and you need to sit down with somebody who's been in this space in order to really nail perfectly, because one little part of it being a little off, and instead of your business making X, it makes 20% of X, right? So you need all three. And in my experience for veteran educators, all three are almost always present. You just haven't been named as yet. It's about you learning to name what your expertise is and to talk about it in a way that's attractive to the person who is looking for it. That's what we're going to do tonight. First in the Q&A, and then I'm going to go live in the private group in about, I don't know, about 40 minutes from now, with a very specific framework for naming your expertise. So let's stop now with the presentation and look at the Q&A section, right? I'm still not seeing any questions. And the question that we had from the broadcast last week, one teacher wanted to, well, the comment, first it was a comment. The comment said that what she was particularly interested in was making a connection with her teenage students. And so I asked her to, okay, what's the question? And she said, well, she guessed the question would be, how do you make a connection with adult students? All right. And so for me to address that in a very direct way, I have to talk about context, right? Because if you've been looking at my other posts and you've been reading some of the things I've been coming out with and some of the content that we were talking about in the previous weeks, I've actually answered this question already. The context when you're dealing with adult learners is completely different, particularly when you're dealing with adult learners in a business sense. Okay. We mentioned last week that if you're a teacher in a regular classroom in traditional education, your students did not choose you. You did not choose your students. The context is that you came to teach, and there's a group of students that were put in front of you, and you were mandated to just deliver what the system says that you're supposed to deliver. And the dynamics for that makes it very difficult to, or maybe not difficult, but it behooves you to make the connection that you're looking for in order to bridge the gap that you can begin to teach. The context when you're talking about a business is totally different, because number one, you chose the topic like we've been discussing in this particular broadcast that you want to offer to people. And the people are going to raise their hands when they say, okay, yes, I need that. The connection is built in already, because you say, I'm offering this, and somebody raises their hand and say, I want that, and I want it now. And I not only want it, I'm willing to pay for it. And they pay you. And so the problem in that case is no longer about making a connection. Your problem becomes you better deliver what you said you're going to deliver. So you have to worry a lot less about making a connection, right? Other than that, the only other connection that you have to worry about, of course, is doing the kind of things that I'm doing right now. You have to actually put yourself out there in order to leave everybody know that this you're offering something, and you have to learn how to build an audience around it. And so, in terms of making a connection, you have to talk about it in those terms. So the context is totally different, right? You no longer have to deal with this impasse inside a classroom where you have a natural disconnect because you have you on one side and the students on another side, and you're trying to bridge that gap. That is not the context that you operate with in an online course business. So I hope I've dealt with that particular question, right? And what I'm going to do now, since I don't see any others coming up in this chat, is seed it with another one that I've been asked in the past before. Things that came up. Here's one that I was asked about a year or two ago. All right, one teacher said, I feel like everything I know is too basic, right? Other teachers already know this stuff. So, this tells me that there's a lot of assumptions that people make when you begin talking about this, right? The first thing is that the other teachers are not your only target. In fact, I would go as far as to say, if you're going to be offering an online course business, you're trying to build an online course business, you really are going to be targeting other teachers unless it has to do with coaching of teachers, which is like a niche within a niche, right? So that question was coming from a place where I think that this particular teacher needed to broaden her horizon a bit in terms of, number one, you're not offering something to children. You're not offering something to other teachers. You're offering something to other adults out there in the community. And you have to think about a specific niche and the intersection between those three things that I mentioned, right? What you're interested in, what people are interested in, and what they're willing to pay for. And so that's what you have to begin thinking about it. And we're going to develop this a lot more in the weeks to come. The question it speaks to me of what we refer to in the industry as the curse of competence, right? And this is something that affects almost every experienced professional that I've ever worked with, especially if they don't teach or they don't have training in teaching, right? Because when you're doing something for 15 years, it stops feeling like expertise and it starts feeling like just common sense. But the test is that it's not common sense to the parent who is struggling, to a professional who never had a teacher like you, or to a new graduate trying to figure out in 6 months what took you 10 years to figure out. All right. So understand and be cognizant of the fact that you've been doing a certain thing in a classroom for a number of time. The subject matter is not really what you're offering. It might be related, yes, but what you actually bring to the table is all the experience you've gone through over cohort after cohort after cohort of delivering that particular subject. All right. And as I talk to teachers individually, it does take some teasing out sometimes for them to understand and recognize the value that they've been honing and crafting over the over the years in the classroom, that once you have to now offer something to the marketplace, um, understanding what value is very important. And again, think about the three things I just mentioned, right? The things that you like and you become an expert at outside of your subject matter, what people are struggling with, and what they're willing to pay for. You think along those lines, and you can't go very far wrong. All right. I think I have a couple more questions up here, but I'm going to pause for now with that one. Okay, let's do one more. This one that's flashing here. I feel like my expertise is too specific. Who would want something that niche? This is just the opposite problem, right? And it's equally common. And I want to tell you, specificity is not a weakness in this market. Specificity is a premium signal, right? The person selling, quote unquote, become a better communicator is competing with everyone. The person selling help for adults with math anxiety who want to pass a professional certification exam has almost no competition and a highly motivated audience. Here, you see the difference, right? Narrow is good. Narrow means fewer people need it, but the people who do need it badly and will pay accordingly, right? So your challenge then is how do you frame it and package it and market it, right? How do you get your tribe to find you? Okay, let's do one more. I've been in the same subject for so long that I don't know if there's anything else I can offer. Your expertise almost certainly extends beyond your subject. I've been alluding to this all along. Think about what you've solved in your professional life beyond the curriculum. How you manage a difficult room. How you build trust with someone who's resistant. How you explain something that people consistently think or find hard to understand. Okay? I mean, you could have been in teachers college for a few years and they taught you this and you got a little bit of practice. But I guarantee you, if you've been doing what you're doing for 10, 15 years, you are way better at it than the person who just came out of teaching in college, right? How you stay calm in a system that is actively trying to deplete you. These are skills, and the adult learners who needs versions of those things will pay for them. They just need to be packaged and, as I mentioned, and marketed properly. And that part is the part that my company, Teacher-Led Schools, will make sure that you have that covered, right? We have a masterclass coming up in a little less than a month, I think. And so you stay tuned for that, because we'll be talking about that. And that masterclass, I'm busy preparing it now. And I'm going to go deep into exactly how do you frame and package it in a way that's going to be attractive to the people who need it the most. Okay. And I think that's where I really do want to stop for today. Okay. And before we close off, here's what I want you to do. If at any point in the last few weeks you've had a moment of thinking, or even tonight, even quietly, even briefly, that this could be me, I want you to come into the private group that we have on Facebook. It's called the Career Educators Second Income Act. All right. And I know that in this broadcast, if you're on LinkedIn, for sure you won't be seeing the comments. If you're on YouTube, there is the link. Okay, so I have it there flashing on this screen. Take it down. I'm pausing for a minute for you to take it down. And here's the link if you're on Facebook. All right, so you take that down as well. You're going to be asked to answer, I think, 3 questions. Just answer them. They're not hard questions. They ask things like how long you've been in education, and I think 2 other questions. It's just we need to. It's a private Facebook group. We have to take things private because I've been working with teachers for a long time. And I think I know you guys very well. You know, you're not going to be saying a whole lot in a public forum. So we go deeper into the same topic that we just discussed at the top of the hour at 7 o'clock. We go a little bit deeper. All right, so we do this every single week. 1 at 6, 1 at 7. The deeper topics are in the Facebook group. All right, so even if you get in, I don't know if you're gonna know your way around in the Facebook group fast enough to find the link. So I urge you to spend some time in there, and you're gonna notice by tomorrow you're gonna be, if you're in the group, you're gonna see inside the group the link to the following week. Right? You can still continue to attend the public ones, but there's even more value in the ones that we broadcast from inside the private Facebook group. That's all we have for today, and I want to thank you for coming, and invite your friends for next week. And so very grateful to have your attention. Until next week, over and out.